This is
Make It Plain.
Make It Plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make It Plain.
Get woke.
Once again, it's Thursday. That means it's time for the founder of the largest online progressive community, DailyKos.com, the founder of one of the largest sample size polling operations there is, Civiqs with a Q.com, and the host of the largest podcast, The Beat, The Brief.
It's not. I wish it was.
Folks, be sure to download The Brief wherever you get your podcast. Markos joins us for Thursday Coast. How are you, buddy?
Doing good. I'm liking your new glasses, and they match your shirt nicely. Do you have different colors for different color shirts?
I don't. This is my second pair of blue glasses. I had I tell you actually what happened. I had another pair I had for years. But I guess glasses now, like iPhones, you have to upgrade them. They won't replace the lenses on them. The eye doctor said, no, I'm not going to do that. My optometrist, you got to get new lenses. So they made me get new lenses with new frames. Couldn't put new lenses in old frames.
Right.
So I got these. These were close to my other ones. But then I found another optometrist that would put new lenses in my old frames. So I actually have two pairs of my old blue glasses and my new ones. So I just switch them up. But no, I just have blue glasses. And I remember when I first got blue glasses over 11 years ago, people said, who wears blue glasses? Nobody wears blue glasses. Now everybody wears blue glasses. So
yeah, I got it.
But no, not for every outfit. I don't go that far. But now I've never had two pairs of glasses at once either, which actually is smart because the other pair I wear when I fall asleep watching the TV and they fall apart sometimes. So and these I just keep kind of safe. But yeah, man, a lot going on, of course. Markos and I were just talking, we try to talk about the things that are most current in politics, and obviously one of the most current issues is this infrastructure bill. But by the time you hear this, who knows what might be going on. But just if there's a way to kind of break down the politics for our audience, the progressives want infrastructure plus Build Back Better, or else they're not going to vote for infrastructure. At the time Markos and I are talking, it appears that vote, which would be scheduled for today, Thursday, may actually not happen, probably won't. But that's really the crux of the matter, isn't it? That, and even Bernie has encouraged progressives in the House not to vote for it, because the current infrastructure bill without the Build Back Better is not what the people need, what the people were promised. You need the bridge, you need the physical infrastructure, you need the human infrastructure. That's really the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, broadly speaking, but even more tactically speaking, there was a deal made.
Right.
Because when the original bipartisan deal was negotiated, originally Democrats were like, let's just get everything into one bill. But Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema wanted Republicans to be part of the process. So that crew whittled everything down to $1 trillion budget that was literally maybe a couple $100 billion more than what would have otherwise been the case if you just kept up the existing funding. And worse than that, they actually cut out a lot of, for example, traditionally, I think the split is 80-20, 80% roads, 20% public transit. They actually even whittled that down and made it even more heavy towards roads, just car infrastructure. So the deal was progressives like, yeah, no, we're not into this. And so the deal was, okay, we're going to do a second infrastructure bill that's going to have those progressive priorities. And to get progressive votes, we're not going to do a final vote on the hard infrastructure bill, the $1.5 trillion bill, until we vote on this other bill too. So it's going to be a package deal. That was the deal. That's why progressives moved and voted originally for the hard infrastructure bill. Now, people like Kyrsten Sinema, Joe Manchin, and a bunch of House a-hole Democrats are trying to renege on that deal to say, no, we want to vote on that, and then we'll talk about this other bill. And we all know there's no way in hell that Sinema, Manchin, and those are going to actually be interested in any kind of additional infrastructure spending on things like public transit and immigration reform and green technologies and none of those things. I think that's the bill that's going to include a permanent child tax credit. These are things that are investing. It's a human infrastructure. It's a Build Back Better agenda. It's Biden's signature campaign promise. is in that $3.5 trillion bill. There is no way that Manchin Sinema are going to be interested in that. So there is a standoff now where for whatever reason, and I still don't understand why, I don't know if anybody does, Pelosi agreed to demands from those House conservative pro-business Democrats to have a vote on the original bill. This breaks the original deal. So House progressives are saying like, yeah, no, we're not voting for this. It could still pass with the Republican votes, but weirdly, and again, I don't understand why, Republicans are whipping against that hard infrastructure bill too. And so if Pelosi pulls it today, it's because just the votes aren't there and this thing's going to fail anyway. And then they're not going to go through the empty motion of a bill that nobody seems to want except maybe 6 or 10 House pro-business Democrats. Now, on the other side, you have Sinema and Manchin saying that no, we're not gonna support this $3.5 trillion Build Back Better bill. They don't say why though. They're just it's too much money, but they're not actually sitting there like penciling out the things that they disagree with. This is just this BS quote moderate attempt to seem that you're in the middle by saying, oh, Republicans want 0, Democrats want $3.5 trillion. So let's make it $2 trillion. That shows how reasonable I am. Now, some progressives like Rep. Jayapal have actually made a good suggestion. They've said, okay, instead of cutting back the number of programs, let's just cut it in half, the years. Instead of a 10-year program, let's just make it 5 years. And then that cuts the price tag in half. Mm-hmm. And then you litigate this in the next 2 election cycles. And actually, if we can't get the full 10-year spending plan approved, I guess that's the next best option. But this vote really is about reneging on a deal that conservative Democrats made with the progressive wing. And you know what? These sort of pro-business Democrats are used to they're used to progressives caving on these issues time and time again, because it's sort of like, all right, you're going to go for nothing? I'm giving you something. The alternative is nothing. And progressives for the first time are saying, yeah, you know what? We get nothing, you get nothing. But guess what? You're in a competitive district. You have to show your voters that you delivered something. We're in safe districts. We're fine. We're going to be okay. So you're putting yourself at risk. And what's really fascinating, Mark, is that Kyrsten Sinema has already been running ads and sending direct mail to independent voters in Arizona, bragging about the bipartisan bill, having that passed. And it hasn't passed. But she's been bragging about that. So if she sinks the broader deal, she has actually just made obsolete her entire case for re-election, which is she can reach across party lines and get stuff done. Yeah. Because without the bigger bill, nothing happens.
More MIP after this message. At least Manchin had conversations with Biden this week. Well, let me ask it this way. Ellie Mistel tweeted this of thenation.com. Manchin and Sinema are breaking with Biden because they expect no consequences for breaking with Biden. Republicans don't break from Trump because they expect severe consequences for breaking from Trump. So more and more people are asking this question: why can't Biden get them to do what he needs them to do? Is that a fair question? Is that possible? Is there anything Biden can do? Well, I know what you suggested, but what you and I suggested about hooking up the coal miners, I mean, we're just too idealistic, probably. But aside from that, in this practical political wisdom, beltway thinking context, is there nothing a president can do anymore in a situation like this?
I mean, there definitely is things he can do. Now, we don't know if it's happening. So just to be very clear, there have been no votes. Sinema and Manchin are talking a lot of crap. We haven't actually had a vote. And at times when we've needed their votes, they've delivered them. So on the original American Rescue Plan. So that is still an ongoing process. Sinema was in the White House yesterday. So they're doing their little song and dance and not sure how that's going to come out. The consequences for Sinema particularly, not for Manchin. Manchin's in a tough state and his reelection is doubtful in the best of circumstances at this point. It's a 40-point Trump state. Sinema, on the other hand, we've been tracking her numbers, at Civiqs. Her approval rating amongst Democrats is now 17%.
Jesus.
And it's amazing. Everybody thinks the thumbs down on the minimum wage was what did it, right? And that knocked her down. That knocked her down from about 80% approval to about 65. You know what knocked her down the rest of the way? And if it wasn't for Civiqs, and we track daily, I never would have guessed. You know what it was?
What?
Skipping the vote on the January 6th commission.
Wow. Really?
That one thing took her from about 60% approval rating down to 18. It was that was like people said, yeah, screw her. Democrats.
And these all Democrats, not just Arizona ones, all Democrats.
No, Arizona Democrats.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, the catch is that in Arizona, no party preference are allowed to vote in either primary. So when I said she's sending mail to independent voters, it's because that's how she thinks she will survive a Democratic primary, is with independent voters. So she's messaging them heavily. But in her Civiqs data, amongst independent voters, she has a 25% approval rating, 65 disapproval. Nobody likes what she's doing. She thinks she's crafting herself up as the heir to what's his face, John McCain. She thinks she's being all John McCain. She's such a maverick. John McCain actually has a biography that bought him credibility, even with people like me who didn't like his politics. Sinema doesn't have that. It's not working. 18% approval rating amongst Democrats is utterly devastating. And I don't think you survive a Democratic primary, even if you could get a strong turnout amongst independent voters and if they liked her. But they don't like her. So nothing she's doing now is helping her. And I do not understand. She's got to have pollsters. They all have to be looking at the numbers. They all have to be wondering. They have to realize that what she is doing now isn't buying her any favors with anybody. There's nobody out there singing her praises. Nobody's like, wow, that Sinema. She's really representing Arizona. Nobody's saying that. Nobody. And I don't understand how that leads her to dig in even deeper into this obstructionist attitude that she has, instead of being. Now, Mark Kelly, her co-senator, just got there he's been there months, right? He was elected last year. He's up for re-election again because it was a special election. His approval ratings with Democrats are like 85%.
And in a sense, if they're both running at the same time, that doesn't help her either. I mean, he won't be running against her.
No. She's not running till 2024, unfortunately.
Oh, okay, she's not next year. Okay, I got you. She's not. I thought she was next year, but he has to run again in 2022.
Mark Kelly's running again next year. Yes.
So does she think that? You mentioned independents reaching out to them. That's what she's doing. Is she thinking looking for Republican votes in a primary?
No, she can't get Republican votes. So in Arizona, you have the two-party primaries. If you're no party preference, you can choose one of the primaries to vote in.
Oh, you have to be no party preference. Okay, I got you.
Yeah,
I got you.
That's why she's going for those independents.
For the independents. Okay, I thought it was an open primary that Republicans can vote in too. Okay, so it has to be. I got you.
Yeah,
but she's not even doing well with them.
No, not even with them. Why would she? I mean, this idea that you're going to split the baby. I don't know where it began. It doesn't help anybody. It's not. Doesn't make rational sense. You're either for a program or you're against that program. That's fair. I don't want X program. Okay, good. So, for example, Manchin saying, I want to means test free college. Okay, that's freaking stupid, but whatever. Okay, means test it. We could strip out the means testing later. If, community college should be free for everybody. It should be just a thing. Wealthy people can go straight to Stanford. They do what they're going to do anyway. But okay, that's fine. That's a policy disagreement. But this idea that we're going to take a $1 billion program and we're only going to support 500 million because we're in the middle. No, that doesn't put you in the middle. That does not put you in the middle.
No,
the middle is the middle of public opinion. Build Back Better. I still think it's a stupid name, but whatever. Build Back Better polls really well. The elements poll very well.
Wonder Bread.
For example, drug reimportation was Drug reimportation.
Build back better. Wonder Bread. Come on, man. You off message. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now, again, does Biden have the ability? I think Manchin is pretty much pressure proof because his state is just a tough state. We've talked about it a million times.
Right.
We, by all rights, should not have a senator from West Virginia. We're lucky that we have Joe Manchin, which is like the cringiest thing to say. It hurts my gut to say, but we're lucky to have Joe Manchin. Sinema, there's no excuse. And I'm not sure if there's anything Biden can do at this point that the voters aren't ready to do as soon as she's up for re-election. I mean, the way Donald Trump threatens people is electorally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Biden doesn't need to threaten Sinema electorally. She's digging her own grave right now.
More MIP after this message.
Hey there, I'm Nadia Komodo. Check out my show Tigress, which is basically my unfiltered and unapologetic journey of being a work in progress.
Like, I hope that I am authentic and I try to be as unfiltered as I possibly can. I am so passionate about what I do, from talking about periods to wanting to build community around the cause to loving the business that I'm working on.
Tune in each week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are streamed.
Okay, you tweeted also about the parliamentarian. That's another area. Why are Senate Democrats so beholden to a parliamentarian that they can't they overrule the parliamentarian?
Yeah, we talked about this last week, right? We didn't even know there was a parliamentarian who made these sort of decisions. And suddenly, because of the importance of reconciliation, I mean, wouldn't be an issue if it wasn't for the filibuster, right? You get rid of the filibuster, then everything's 50 plus. They're trying to put things into reconciliation, and the parliamentarian gets to rule on whether something is appropriate for reconciliation, but you can overrule her. Simple vote. You don't even need 60. A simple vote can overrule the parliamentarian. And so Democrats they think that they'll get brownie points by following certain rules. Now, reminder, this is the same parliamentarian that ruled that you could do a $1 trillion tax cut, Donald Trump's $1 trillion tax cut, that you could do that under reconciliation, even and claimed that was revenue neutral. And of course, we know we've got trillions in deficit spending because of those tax cuts for billionaires. This same parliamentarian, you could fire her, you can overrule her. There's different ways to handle somebody who clearly is at this point holding water for Republicans in a chamber that is already unfairly skewed towards Republicans and conservative interests. I mean, how many more institutional barriers can you pile on against progressive policy? And Democrats are like, well, we don't want to look unreasonable by being mean to the parliamentarian. I don't know what they think is going to happen. Nobody will know. Nobody will care. People will they'll look at the policy and they'll say, okay, Democrats created a pathway to citizenship for dreamers.
Right.
And they're either going to be happy about that or they're going to be angry about that. The parliamentarian's utterly irrelevant to that ultimate equation. And I don't know how Democrats think that having 50 plus votes, having a majority of the Senate vote for something could come back and bite them because of parliamentarian. Like, if there's no logical reason to worry. Now, there is, I guess the one possible reason is that maybe Joe Manchin is saying that if the parliamentarian rules against it, so you may have that consideration. So we may lose our majority, our 50 votes plus one if the parliamentarian doesn't like something. But this just shows you how important next year's elections are. And it's exhausting to always talk about the next year's election is the most important election. But we are where we are today. We can't even get a vote to raise the debt limit. We are where we are today because we have a 50-50 Senate. We have a possibility next year of gaining 4 seats. We have a real possibility of losing 1, 2, 3 seats. So we can go from -3 to +4 in the Senate. If we're in a minority, forget it. We're not even getting a Supreme Court justice at that point. If something happens to Stephen Breyer. If we can get those 4 seats, it changes everything, right? Then you eliminate the filibuster. Manchin and Sinema can vote against Democrats and show how independent they are, and nobody will care at that point because they won't matter. In fact, it might be the best thing for them to be able to freely vote against Democratic priorities so they can do whatever they think they need to do back home.
Yeah. Debt ceiling. Is that just not going to move? Are they literally not going to do anything about that?
They seem paralyzed, don't they, Mark? I mean, the Republicans were happy to vote for tax cuts that increase the debt. Mitch McConnell said, well, Democrats have to do it on their own. So then Chuck Schumer said, the Democratic leader said, okay, then don't object, and then we'll pass it with Democratic votes. So don't filibuster. And of course, Republicans are like, no, we're going to filibuster. So it's not even like we want you to do it on your own. They're actively obstructing this. The reconciliation process would take like 6 weeks. The debt limit is over, it's like 3 weeks where the debt limit expires. So now they're saying, yeah, it's too late for that. They could have put it into the last reconciliation bill, the rescue plan. Why didn't they do that? Your guess is as good as mine. No freaking clue. That would have been the obvious, easy solution. But no, they thought they could shame Republicans into agreeing to raise it. And of course, they have no shame. So what's left, Mark? The only thing I can think of is you kill the filibuster. That's the only other option. Otherwise, we're going to default. And it's going to be, it's on Republicans for blocking it, but it's also on Democrats, too, for not eliminating the filibuster or putting that limit raise in the last reconciliation bill.
I was in a meeting yesterday, and speaking of reconciliation, and that's why the parliamentarian came back to mind. I've also probably heard, as many of our listeners have heard, the policing bill is pretty much done. Tim Scott's pulled the rug out from under that. I don't know why people trusted him or worked with him in the first place. That didn't make any sense. But there was a member of Congress yesterday on the phone saying to some of us, I mean, technically that could have been in reconciliation too, to deal with the policing issue. But everybody wanted to work with Tim Scott, and everybody thought Tim Scott was going to do something, and Tim Scott did nothing. Even some of the Fraternal Order police organizations and police administrative organizations had to push back against his characterization that there was a demand to do some type of defund. And there wasn't. There was actually going to be money going into policing. And some of these organizations even acknowledged it on social media. Said, no, that's not true. We were never asked to defund anything. We were going to get money. So he pretty much sabotaged everyone. This whole agenda, though, so just to be clear, I want to be sure I have this right. Now I'm second guessing myself because I don't know if I have it right. Democrats, when it comes to the rule on the filibuster, the whole Senate votes or just the Democratic caucus in power?
It's a 50+1 vote.
Okay. So it's a majority of the chamber. So you'd need 50 Democrats and Kamala Harris. And so what Manchin is holding over us is that he would not vote to either remove the filibuster or... Why can't they just do the carve out? Let's just deal with voting rights. What if they did it for the Supreme Court justices, for the judges? Why can't they do a carve out for issues such as voting rights? Why is he afraid to do that? We don't know. Because he keeps pretending that this is some failing in the Democrats' part that we don't have Republican support. Yeah, because he's still caught up in trying to do this other thing of yeah. Now it's his the voting rights bill at this point. It's mostly his, right? And there's still hope that since he wrote this thing, that maybe he'll finally agree to a carve out on voting rights, carve out on the debt ceiling. You can do a carve out on anything. It's a majority vote. It's Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema time and time again for every one of these. Yeah. Because otherwise, the country just fails to function without it. Nothing is getting done. What are the consequences if they don't raise the debt ceiling? The nation defaults on its debt. People don't get paid. We lose our credit rating. Borrowing costs go up. Interest rates go up. It's pretty cataclysmic. So they probably think doing that, they could run on blaming, look, Joe Biden made our credit go bad. Is that what they're planning to do? Yeah. Now there's an old blogger named Atrios who he's an economist who used to talk about minting $1 trillion coin. And suddenly I've seen it start cropping up in actually more mainstream circles, more mainstream economists, and even some elected officials are just saying, okay, you're not going to raise the debt ceiling. We need money. Because the debt ceiling is limited to how much debt the country has, right? So I think it's at $18 trillion right now, something like that. So the Treasury just mints 5 $1 trillion coins, and boom, we're $5 trillion under the debt ceiling. Now you have $5 trillion new dollars circulating in the economy.
Might that increase inflation? Possibly. Econ 101 would suggest that it would increase inflation, but that would buy some time. But yeah, no, it's just Republicans trying to sabotage the economic recovery. They're always looking at how they can damage Joe Biden. And in fact, the reality is that it's working. Joe Biden's numbers have dropped quite a bit, particularly amongst independents, but even amongst Democrats too. And Republicans the lower the president's approval ratings, the better their chances are next year's midterm elections. So it's a political strategy. They don't care how much it affects Americans.
Right.
So.
Right. Virginia elections upcoming, and we've been able to keep Virginia blue. Is it going to stay that way?
I hope so. I'm confident that we will. The entire General Assembly, the House of Delegates, I think that's what they call their lower house. The entire House of Delegates is up for re-election, and the governor and other statewide races. Terry McAuliffe is back, which is, speaking of Wonder Bread, but Terry McAuliffe is back. In Virginia, governors can't serve consecutive terms. So he was governor 4 years ago, and now he's trying to come back. He won his primary. He's trying to come back. Polling shows that the race might be tightening, but the state is pretty Democratic, and I'm hoping that we're seeing another California where people were freaking out, but it was a question of just motivating people to take the election seriously. The problem in Virginia is a problem in California. It's not that Republicans may have more, that we may lose a debate of ideas. The danger is that it's 2019. Virginia, younger voters of color, lower performing voters may not realize that, oh shit, there's an election again this year, because there's always an election in Virginia every single year. And because they had that weird odd number year election. And so they may not realize that that's what's happening. So it's just a question of educating voters that they need to turn out and vote. Because if they do that, we win. I mean, we're not gonna lose based on ideas. If we lose, it's because our people don't turn out. Now, everybody's watching this election in the political world, right? This is sort of considered a bellwether. So in 2009, after everybody was frustrated with Obama and the slow pace of the Affordable Care Act, Democrats got crushed in those Virginia elections. And then in 2010, we got crushed again. And then we saw the reverse back in 2017. Donald Trump was elected. 2016, Trump was elected. 17, Democrats swept everything in Virginia. And of course, we went ahead to win the 18 and the 20 elections. So people consider Virginia a bellwether. And I don't know if it's really justified or if it's just coincidence. But since the DC press is right there, they just have to look across the border, right? Most of them probably live in Northern Virginia. So it has outsized influence in how the narrative is shaped leading into next year, in the way that if Democrats do well, it'll help with fundraising. It'll help with candidate recruitment. It may mean some Republicans in tough districts retire. So it actually has a lot of impact. If Democrats do poorly, the opposite. Some Democrats may retire. Republicans will raise more money. They'll have better candidate recruitment. So it's important for Virginia for a million reasons, but it's also important nationally. And so I definitely want to urge anybody that is in the DC area, Virginia, Maryland, anywhere within driving distance to North Carolina, to a Virginia locale. Might not be a bad idea to hook up with a GOTV, get out the vote operation and go help knock some doors and distribute literature and do the things we need to do on the ground to make sure people turn out and vote. And if anybody's interested, New Virginia Majority is a great organization to connect with. Had them on my podcast this week. They had people from Seattle fly out to help out with GOTV. It's important, people. So anybody that's within striking distance of Virginia, and there's a lot of states up there. There's a lot of you live. That's the most populated region of the country. So a lot of you are within driving distance of Virginia. Seriously consider heading out there and helping out with Get Out the Vote for 5 weeks. As of now, 5 weeks.
All right, folks, please do it. Everyone should know someone in Virginia, or know someone who knows someone. So please do that. Also, check out The Brief, wherever you get your podcasts. Hear all about it. As always, this has been DailyKos with Markos Moulitsas. Thank you, Markos.
Thank you so much, everybody. Please stay safe.
Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. Please remember to listen, like, and wherever you get your podcasts, please give the show a 5-star rating. And please do spread the word. Let's all continue to pray for each other during this pandemic and this police-demic. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.